We're all having a good day today. I've got a little break in the work day, so I thought I'd kind of throw my 2 cents in on a topic, as I often do. So, one that's been entertaining me lately is this whole thing about, you know, whether Donald Trump will be arrested or not. I think it's pretty hilarious. I think he's pretty hilarious in general. So, I heard this term scandalmancy recently. So it's basically scandalmancy is the magical art of using scandals in order to change your reality, boost your power, all that kind of thing. So, we've all heard of like geomancy, which is, magic using the power of the earth energy, and necromancy, it's like calling upon the dead, speaking to the dead, learning things from the dead. There's all these different types of mancies. So, scandalmancy is an interesting concept, and you see this all around you. Just in the media, there are all these scandals. They're selling you a scandal every day, and sometimes scandals, they undo people because it throws light on something that they don't want the public to know about them. But more often than we think, the person who's being scandalized actually planned it and they want the scandal. Because what it's doing is it's giving them free publicity. They don't have to pay for it. And all of the attention, people's attention actually boosts their charisma, makes them more charismatic, makes people want to listen to them. So, we think of scandals as these things that ruin people and are totally undesirable and negative. Well, they can be. But a scandal can also be the best thing that happened to you if you're basically if you know how to use it. If you're like basically promoting it for yourself, and especially if you know how to use it and just get attention and basically advance, your message or your platform. So that's really what, Donald Trump is a hype man. Um, he is who he is because he knows hype and he knows how to use a scandal to his advantage. So it's like, I've told people before, I think Donald Trump is he's basically the face of his generation, of his baby boom generation. He's a total daddy's boy. He started his business with a loan from his father, and I think his dad got him where he is today, and that's very true. That generation, especially a lot of the men in that generation, they'll tell you over and over for years how it's like their claim to fame is basically, their dad's a World War II veteran. Or they don't even have to have that. They can just be like, well, my parents' generation won World War II, so that you better listen to me because people my parents' age won World War II. And it's like, well, what does that have to do with you? So, I mean, it's like serious, like, the and I'm not really bagging on them. It's the environment they grew up around in, that they grew up in, and most people can't resist being flattered and having smoke blown up their ass. You know what I mean? I've had people from that generation tell me like they were told their whole childhood and early adulthood how important they were by their parents. So they had a lot of smoke blown up their asses for, going to college, going to work every day, buying a house, and just, their whole build up to adulthood, they were told how important they were. And this goes to people's heads, so you can't blame them. And it was really, I think when they grew up, it was a serious like meat grinder of a time because the traditional world that had, endured of traditional values had endured for generations and generations and centuries. It came to a pretty abrupt end. And then, in the 60s, you had the intelligence services like CIA basically creating and pushing the whole hippie movement and the drug culture. So, that World War II generation's world came to a very abrupt end. And their children, the baby boomers, they had no path to follow. So, they went kind of crazy in the environment they were living in. It's like a bunch of college kids, at like an open bar event, you know what I mean? They're gonna go nuts, at least most of them anyway. So, but yeah, it turned into, and it's in sidereal astrology, it's the Pluto and Leo generation. So they're one of their purposes for being on Earth is to understand their divine nature. But they have to challenge with that is they have to understand that everybody else is just as divine and special as they are. They're no more divine or special than anyone. And that's a hard lesson. So it's like I don't blame them, but they wonder why the U.S. in the world seems to be falling apart. And it's like, well, how many of you since the '60s or the '70s or the '80s have been like drunk, stoned, and high every single day? It's quite a bit, and just plopped in front of the TV and thinking you understand the world because you watch television. Um, addictions keep people stunted emotionally and mentally. If you adopt addictions in your teenage years, your adolescent years, you're going to be a teenager for the rest of your life. And television makes you very passive. It just pours information into you, and you don't really have your own opinions about things. You just regurgitate. So just a meat grinder of a time for them to have grown up in and really to have their adulthood in. So, but they create a spectacle. So I think Donald Trump is like he's like the caricature of the whole generation, really. So it's like he's like the face of the generation. Um, and I think that's why people don't like him is because it just reminds them, especially people his age, it reminds them too much of themselves. So, and it's interesting too, is because having that age group of people as the adults when I was growing up, they used to say all the time, if somebody bullies you, just ignore the person because they just want your attention. Well, then Trumpy comes along and it's like, would you care to follow your own advice? Like he's just a master at riling people up and getting their attention. So they fell right into his trap because another thing too is like in those early days of the Cold War after World War II, the television taught people that you're an American hero just by humiliating and talking shit about Germans and about Nazis and about Soviets and Russians. So in every generation, the mainstream of people have their heads pretty far up their ass, but I think in those 25, 30 years after World War II, which was the baby boom grew up in, I think that's the most heavily brainwashed group of people who've ever lived on Earth. Above and beyond the Nazis or the Soviets, because the Nazis were half of the founding members of CIA and NSA that, organize all the propaganda and the mind control. So the Third Reich was basically recreated here in America after World War II, but it was just sort of hiding below the surface. It had a nice sort of veneer on it. So anyway, yeah. So yeah, Donald Trump is definitely a master scandalmancer. He's this master of this, the magic of a scandal. So this basically what's going on is this George Soros funded district attorney in New York. His name escapes me right now, but it doesn't really matter. um, this this George Soros funded DA is just basically going on a political witch hunt, and he's coming after him for having paid hush money, to the porn star Stormy Daniels that Donald Trump had sex with, and then paid her to sign a non-disclosure agreement and not say anything. And it's like, well, how many fucking famous people do that every day? So yeah, it's basically a political witch hunt, and this guy's trying to go after him. So last week, once Trump got a whiff of that possibility that someone might arrest him or at least serve him with court paperwork, he got all over social media and all over the television saying that the NYPD was going to come arrest him. And he's just been playing it up, and he's even basically telling his advisors, his campaign people, that he wants to do a perp walk. So he wants to walk up to the courthouse to be booked in handcuffs. He wants all that publicity of him being handcuffed and walked to the courthouse in New York City to get his mugshot and fingerprinted and get booked. And people who run social media outlets, like Elon Musk, and who very much understand the power of publicity, it's like, since that's been happening, they've all been saying, oh, he's going to win this 2024 presidential election by a landslide, which is a good chance he would. And he fucking cracks me up. He's such a clown. And people take him way too seriously. He's a total trickster. He's a total Loki. So he's been his campaign advisors are like, no, don't do that. And the Secret Service is saying that, because he gets Secret Service detail for Secret Service protection for having been a former president, and is saying, there are some security concerns if you do a perp walk up to the, a perp walk is when you're handcuffed and you get walked into jail, to get booked, or walked into a courthouse. And they're saying, you could get shot walking in there. And they're saying, just do an internet, do your arraignment hearing over the internet. And just do the whole thing virtually, and he's allegedly been telling his advisors, he's like, I hope I get, this is him saying, I hope I get shot, because if I do, I'll definitely win the election. So it's it's just so ridiculous. It's theatrically, it's just like, it's theater of comic absurdity, but people are still gonna get all pissed off. And basically, for 4 years, when people turned on the television every day and got all pissed off that Donald Trump, walks the earth and became president, they poison their bodies every day. They poison their bloodstreams with cortisol, with stress hormones. And then, too, they participated in a mass smear campaign, which is basically like a hex or a bind spell against somebody who had never harmed them. So you get involved with cursing or binding or hexing somebody who's never harmed you, that the maliciousness, you can curse somebody, bind somebody, hex somebody if you've been harmed, if you've been, if you've had your livelihood stolen from you, if somebody in your family has been harmed, you can rightfully do that. But if you do that just based on hypotheticals of what some public figure could do, the malignancy, the maliciousness of that the energy of that hex, that spell, that bind, it never leaves your body and it stays in you and it grows like an energetic fetus. You can get sick from it. So I think so much of the public who was just by watching television and getting all pissed off about somebody they'd never met, they participated in a massive smear campaign and a hex and a bind spell. And it basically backfired on them. And I think it backfired in the form of the needlecraft, which created a lot of malignancy in people's bodies. And, and so many of them got needle crafted more than once. They kept, getting a boost to the initial needle craft. So that's how that spell, that smear campaign, backfired against them. But it's like people can't see that he's just fucking with them in real time, and he's just trying to get attention. So, but of course, their excuse is always, well, I'm angry because all of these morons support him. Well, if you're watching the news every day and you think politics is real and you think the other side is a moron, well, you are also a moron. Because it's just all a game to just get you all stressed out. So you'll go to the hospital more, so you'll take more pharmaceuticals, more blood pressure meds, and so that you'll die sooner, and there'll be one less Social Security payment that the government has to make every month. I mean, really. I think the way the media treated him, combined with the needlecraft and the boosts, that was like the final solution for the baby boom. It's like when the Third Reich was losing World War II, they had the final solution. They're like, what are we going to do with all these people in these camps? And it was like, oh, we'll just get rid of them. So I think the heads of the banks, which fund the government, which fund the Social Security Administration ultimately, they were like, what are we going to do with this baby boom that we used to build this commercial and military and political and cultural empire? It's like, we're all retiring. We're going to go broke. Oh, yeah, we can get rid of them and make it look like it was this, some sort of a disease, a virus. And then, you throw in the daily unbelievable stress from the Trump scandalmancy, the way the media is just always telling you to hate him. You got a final solution for the baby boom on your hands. So, yeah. If you don't like this guy, just fucking ignore him. Take your own advice that you've given to little children. Ignore him, don't give him the attention he wants, and he'll go away. So, yeah, but he cracks me up because people have just been kissing politicians' asses their entire lives and worshiping the ground they walk on, and he destroyed all that. He brought a reality check to the whole politician worship thing. Politics is just a modern religion. Even people who go to church, it's like the vast majority don't really believe any of it. They just do it to keep their families happy, keep their communities happy. It's like the TV is the real religion, and then politics is one aspect of it. But anyway, hope I could crack you up a fraction of as much as I crack myself up sometime. Well, old Trumpy cracks me up. Anyway, talk to you later. Have a nice one.